In 2022, 662 persons lost their lives. 3,174 others suffered injuries. And over 2.4 million individuals were displaced by the floods across Nigeria. Thousands of houses, hectares of farmlands, and several critical national assets were destroyed by the raging floods last year. It is now 2023, and the flood predictions are the same, with predictions that there will be worse consequences if states do not make preventive measures a priority before the rains take full force. Are the states listening? In the nation's capital, flooding has been predicted in the Abuja Municipal Area Council. And in our focus on the nation's capital, we go to these flood-prone areas and assess the work that needs to be done to ensure flooding is mitigated this year. And as we do every week, we have an update on stories from Nigeria's presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. We begin with an update on the top stories this week from Nigeria's seat of power.
The federal government has accused some persons it has termed powerful persons at the subnationals of encouraging the ongoing deforestation in the country. The Minister of Environment, Mohammed Abdullahi, apportioned the blame during the 69th weekly ministerial briefing at the State House. Mr. Abdullahi said the task force set up to apprehend the protracted menace of tree felling for charcoal have faced difficulties in enforcement because of a consistent pushback at the subnational level on the grounds that the trees belong to the states. Those clamoring for interim government are daydreaming. Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State made the comment after a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari in his office. He told State House correspondents that those supporting the call for interim government are working against the principle of democracy, which the president has vowed to uphold. He expressed confidence that the president's successor, President-elect Bola Tinubu, would meet the expectations of Nigerians and hit the ground running. President Muhammadu Buhari has sworn in the former Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase, as the new chairman of the Police Service Commission. The new PCS boss took the oath of office in the council chamber before the commencement of the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting.
Issue of discipline will be taken very seriously. I would not want a situation where civil transactions are criminalized. So any officer who, steps out of the line, there are going to be consequences. And that the IG himself will respect, the constitutional powers, the police force. So, there must be mutual respect between both parties. And I don't foresee any crisis anymore.
And following threats by the NLC to embark on a nationwide strike to picket all branches of the Central Bank of Nigeria nationwide, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mr. Chris Ngige, has stated that they have apprehended the dispute and remains optimistic that the strike action would be halted. At the 60th Ministerial Weekly Briefing, Mr. Ngige said that a meeting between the two parties was held on Monday, where the union affirmed that there has been a reprieve in the cash crunch situation, particularly after the Apex Bank weighed in over the weekend. He said he is confident that the central issue is no longer that of strike, but implementation, as a final decision is awaited at the end of the Executive Council meeting. Barely 2 months to the end of the second term of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, the presidency is convinced that Nigerians will yearn for him when he leaves office. In an interview with Channels Television, the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Mr. Garba Shehu, lamented the level of criticisms thrown at the president, asserting that leaders are not loved in office. On the cashless policy, Mr. Shehu affirmed that the current cashless policy of the present administration is desirable and therefore irreversible. The Senate has extended the implementation of the capital component of the 2022 budget from March 31st to June the 30th, 2023. The extension, according to the upper chamber, will enable the federal government to implement key projects in the capital component of the 2022 budget and allow for the completion of ongoing projects critical to the current administration. And the House of Representatives has passed a resolution to invite the Chiefs of Defense and Army Staff to appear before the House to, among other things, explain the circumstances behind an alleged attack on a member of the House. This follows a motion by Honorable Mark Biller accusing the military in Benue State of assaulting a serving member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Pam Sobo. According to Mr. Biller, the unfortunate incident happened on Saturday, March 18, 2023 at a hotel in Boko, Benue State. And finally, the House of Representatives has approved the Presidential Declaration Order 2022, designating 10 named parks with the status of national parks. The President had on November 16, 2022 signed a declaration order declaring 10 parks across Nigeria as national parks. They are Alawa Game Reserve, Niger State; Apoy Forest Reserve, Bayelsa State; Edumenum Reserve, Bayelsa State; Falgore Game Reserve, Kano State; Bataria Wetland Game Reserve, Jigawa State; Kankpe Forest Reserve, Kwara State; Kogo Forest Reserve, Katsina State; Murai Forest Reserve, Nasarawa State; Oba Hill Forest Reserve, Osun State; and Pandam Forest Reserve, Plateau State. The House believes that this will preserve the value and enhance the potentials of the parks.
Welcome back. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has begun the assessment of flood-prone areas in the nation's capital. 2022's rainy season across the nation came with devastation. Thankfully, no life was lost in Abuja due to the rains of last year. But there are flood-prone areas that could cause harm to residents if preventive actions are not put in place on time. We speak to residents and officials on all this and more in our focus on the FCT. Please watch this.
Flood predictions for 2023 have been announced, and Nigerians have been warned that the floods will be grave this year. In late January, the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mr. Ahmed Habib, noted that 662 persons lost their lives, 3,174 others suffered injuries, and 2.4 million individuals have been displaced by the floods. Thousands of houses, hectares of farmlands, and several critical national assets were destroyed by the raging floods in 2022. These sites sent shockwaves across Nigeria, raising questions about preventive measures that should have been put in place and compensations for the loss incurred by the victims of the flood. On a national level, engagement with state governors on crucial flood preventive measures are ongoing. State governors have been advised to set up FEMA and local emergency committees and fund them adequately. In the nation's capital, the FCT Emergency Management Agency is flagging off a joint assessment tour of 2023's flood-prone areas in the Federal Capital Territory, beginning here at Abuja. This road gets submerged when it rains, and the residents here tell us that last year they were flooded out of their homes for 2 days. They believe they need a bigger culvert to transit the water that gathers here from the top of the hill.
During the flood time, this particular waterway that you are seeing here, it do block, and once it block, the flood all over these places will be covered, and the motorists will not have access to pass through. Even the people that are using motorcycle or people that are using leg to cross, they cannot cross. Last year, it took us 2 days before we were able to have access to our houses here. So if there is anything that they can do, or make a wider bridge, widen the waterway, or make a preferable bridge, so that once the water is coming, have access to go. Because what I think is that the water does not have much access way to pass. So once it's coming, because of the buildings and the way there's not enough channel for the water to pass with, then the water will be overflooded. And once it's overflooded, we that we are living around here, it will affect us definitely. So last year, it really affected. It took me particularly, it took me 2 days before I was able to use my vehicle to pass. I normally use Okada to follow another road, the other side, to penetrate and enter my house. But if you are using your car, you cannot pass.
On the 19th of April, about 2 p.m., there was I think that was the third rain of the year. So there was heavy downpour. I happened to be at the estate, Carter Scott. Within about 30 minutes, inside the estate was flooded. And the fence The external fence of the estate is about 11 feet high. The volume of the water was overwhelmed that fence. So immediately I put in a call to FEMA. Within 30 minutes, he came in. They carried out survey. The next day, they also came in. Then the second, it happened again on September 13. We also had the same issue. This road was blocked for about 5 hours. Nobody could pass. About 12 duplex, terrace duplex was flooded. No resident was able to live in that place for about a month. So that is why we'll be following them up. We visit FCT, we visit development control. They promised they will do something, but at present, we are doing our own direct excavation to expand the waterways so that what happened last year won't happen this year.
Flooding is induced by the activities of man, according to the FCT authorities, and they highlight the challenges they believe are the root causes of flooding in places like Abuja. For others in the FCT administration, fraudulent developers are the main problem, and a conference with Abuja's developers is in the works. As we go up the hill in Abuja, we see the extent of the problem. This entire area is supposed to be a floodplain. However, construction of estates are in progress. This estate under construction has been marked for demolition, and the developer has been ordered to stop work here. But that order is clearly being ignored, and the developer claims he has the proper documentation to build on the land. At the local Goma Phase 2 axis, we make our way to Dogongada, another part of Abuja prone to flooding. This road is the only entrance into Dogongada. The residents say the flooding at this culvert has claimed many lives over the years, and they are asking for a bigger bridge.
I live in FAB here before I now started coming to Dogongada here.
Talk to us about the flooding in this area.
The flooding here is terrible because it has affected several people here to the extent that we have lost several people on this because of this bridge. Several people have died because if you see the flooding that time, at times you get up to all these places, the whole place will be flooded, and it's very terrible. There's no two ways about it. The help they need is they construct a better bridge here. That's just the best thing. If we have a better bridge here where vehicle can be going and coming, so that if the drainage is wide enough, at least it will help the people in this area.
What we experience here when it comes to raining time, the flood here is something else. That sometimes if rain started and we did not come back home on time, it's just better for me to sleep outside.
How has it affected you personally?
Me personally, I can remember a particular day. I'm coming back from work and the rain have failed already, and that day we can't cross. We went to turn through Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale 2 is blocked, and I can say that I slept on my car throughout that night. I can never forget. There's a particular time that the flood, like a particular car that the flood, when the rain is falling and it took away, and somebody died.
For the chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council, these demands are essential, and he promises to work towards granting the requests of the residents.
Yes, we are experiencing this issue since, and when the flood has started, there will not be either anybody will not pass here or they'll come back here. But we have the assurance of this our new chairman of Abuja Municipal Area Council, Christopher Zaka Mekalangu. We have told him the experience of this place, and by the grace of God, we are going to do it in this 2023. We are going to join hand with FCD and do it.
What exactly? Like what action are you going to take?
We are going to change the bridge. This bridge is totally condemned. This bridge, it cannot work here. That is it.
The tour rounds up at the Galadimawa interchange, a place with a path riddled with deaths from flooding. Demolition of houses and floodplains in estates around this interchange has ensured this area stays flood-free, at least in the past 2 years. Following the floods of 2022, President Buhari in a statement noted that the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA had written to each of the 36 states of the Federation through the states' respective governors, advising on the appropriate action to take in view of gloomy forecasts of the rains that year. This year, 2023, flood warning have been given again, and states are urged to begin preventive measures to avoid loss of lives and property. The coming months will reveal whether state governments took the warning seriously or not.
My guest on the program is Dr. Abbas Idris, the Director General of the FCT Emergency Management Agency. He elaborates more on these flood-prone areas in Abuja, explains the need for states to heed to the early flood warnings given to them by multiple agencies, the issues with developers building on floodplains in Abuja, and the need for the demolition of more shanties in this broad flood prevention plan. Dr. Abbas Idris, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's another year. We went on this tour, of course, with your office yesterday. The assessment tour of flood-prone areas in the FCT. And, this is something that a lot of state governors have been urged to do. In fact, I remember last year, after the flooding last year, that was exactly what President Muhammadu Buhari said. Set up SEMA, State Emergency Management Agencies, and then do tours of flood-prone areas and put in preventive measures. And I think at the time, he even went on to explain the fact that many Nigerians believe that when things happen like that in the states, the federal government should just jump in. That's not how the law works. There's supposed to be subnationals who are in charge of these things. But let's talk a bit about Abuja first before we get into a broader picture. For the areas that we went to, Dogongada, Apoduse, the Galadimawa interchange, places people have identified like Lugbe, Kubwa. So those areas and the ones that we're able to visit yesterday. For Dogongada, for instance, that bridge is insufficient.
It is.
So there will be a need to build a bigger bridge. For Apoduse, that culvert is insufficient.
It's going to be removed.
We even saw, in fact, we'll get to developers in a bit, because we actually saw someone building on a floodplain in Apoduse.
You see?
But he had papers. But we'll get to that shortly.
Okay.
So let's talk a bit about these areas that need these bigger bridges and bigger culverts. Are you going to be able to get those bridges and culverts done before the rains start?
Absolutely. You see what we do, we rate also their own vulnerability in that area. If you have a small box culvert and we discover that it is really a flood-prone area, we call on the FCDA immediately to change that box culvert to river bridge. And that has been done all these years that we've been successful to get the free flow of water.
A lot of developers. And I think I heard Alhaji Mukhtar actually say this yesterday, where he was talking about the fact that a lot of developers in the FCT just decide to build wherever they want to. And he was talking about some conference, that they might have to do a conference this year with developers in the FCT so that they can have a conversation about what we're doing wrong and how we can get that fixed. And almost like a prophetic thing, he said, just that same yesterday, as we climbed up the hill at Apoduse, we now looked and saw that we are on top of the hill, and there's a floodplain leading to a river, and they were building 3 estates. There were 3 estates being built there.
That is it.
They didn't want to talk to the press, of course, but there was, one of the men was bringing papers and saying he had allocation. This is my allocation. Let's understand how this works. Can someone have allocation on a place that is a floodplain?
No.
Are you saying those papers are false?
I am sure they are false. Definitely, they are. Nobody will give you allocation on floodplain, waterways, and then also green areas. Nobody. And the minister has categorically stated, even if such papers were issued mistakenly, we should withdraw them and reissue and get a place for that developer.
So that's the compensation is to give him a different
if there was,
if it was a mistake.
Exactly.
Because I saw on the buildings, there were X's on the building.
So that means it is not officially given to him. Because who marked the building?
FCDA.
Fine. So, and who gives the approval?
FCDA.
So that means they haven't given the approval. It's a fake paper. And they carried such papers and be flagging it off and said that they have papers. They don't have any paper. Nobody will give you approval to build on waterways, floodplain, and green areas. Nobody. And a sewer line.
The rain forecast for 2023 is out, and you know, based on the things that we saw last year, maybe not in the FCT, of course, but you know, around the country, it is cause for concern. Lokoja is just around the corner. I remember last year it was impossible. Yeah, it was impossible to come from Lokoja to Abuja. It was impossible to go from Abuja to Lokoja. Yes. And this is a route that a lot of people ply. People even come to work in Abuja from Lokoja. Yeah. I know that the states are supposed to be putting these things in place right now, and as the FCT, that's what you're doing as well. The forecast for the year basically says we're still going to see the same.
The same, if not more.
The same, or if not more.
If not more.
Talk to us about this situation.
Yeah, honestly, we need to wake up. If you ask me, with the flood at Lokoja and other places, what have we done after the flood? Have we done anything? If the road was blocked completely for almost 2-3 weeks, which had economic implication, what have we done to ensure that this year it doesn't happen? If you go to Kogi State, do they have State Emergency Management Agency? Functional State Emergency Management Agency? They don't have. They don't have. So, if they don't have, who is going to be responsible for all this assessment, planning, and all those things? So, we need to really change our attitude and ensure that we give priority to. We should be talking about other areas, not Lokoja again. Not how many years? Since 2012, we have been talking about Lokoja. And it will come, it will go. All the stakeholders will do their own part of the job. Nothing will happen. Road construction, road is blocked. Whose responsibility is that? Federal Ministry of Works or State Ministry of Works? It depends on what type of roads we are talking about. So, and bring them together and ensure that if it is desilting of the river, who is going to do the desilting? Is it Federal Ministry of Water Resources? Is it State Ministry of Water Resources? All those things. Let's desilt it and then make sure that before the next rain, we have been able to clear those rudiments that caused the flooding last year. I had in one of your programs talking about these shanties. We'll continue to remove shanties. We are going to remove shanties because shanties are part of those things that are causing flooding in the FCT. So if we don't remove the shanties, we'll have water overflowing and affecting real approved houses that were built with approval of the Honorable Minister. So shanties are going. We will continue to remove shanties. If the FCT feels that those people living in the shanties need to be accommodated elsewhere, it is their own responsibility to do that. But our own responsibility is to clear way for water to flow to the discharge point, which we will continue to do it.
I actually saw the Area 1 market, that village market. Yes. It has been
removed
completely. Because that place, apparently, it was when they removed the market that I saw that it was a waterway.
And that, you remember that every year you see the roundabout having flooding.
Flooding, yes.
So that's the essence. So if we don't remove such shanties, we will continue to have flooding. And then the next thing, those people who are saying that we are removing shanties, they will now come and say, we are allowing flood in the FCT.
Well, you have a lot of work ahead of you.
We have. I agree with you.
But that's all the time we have for this interview today. But thank you very much, Dr. Abbas Idris, for always heeding our call. Whenever we call you, you show up. And good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
You are helping us too. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. Floods are inevitable, but its effects can be mitigated. All it takes is political will and matching words with action. It may be easier for leaders to do nothing and seek compensation when the devastation from the flooding happens, but that's just wrong. And history will judge such leaders. However, there has to be some way of checking this behavior. As a people, we should seek to make our country better than we met it. So avoid building on floodplains. Keep your gutters clean. And if you live in a flood-prone area, it is time to consider moving. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Nagwa.